Welcome to Inter-Party Conflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe, and today we have a non-standard episode for you. I'm actually taking the week off this week because I'm on vacation. It's my wedding anniversary, and we are out of town. So instead, what we're going to be treating you to this week is a little compilation of Patreon rewards that we've done. So one of the rewards on our red tier of our Patreon that we had for the last 4 years, or at least this particular reward was for the last year or two. One of the rewards that we had was if you were a red tier patron, you could give us a topic. It could be something gaming related, something non-gaming related, and so on. And then Jeff and I would do I think I said a 10-minute discussion about it. But I think in every case it was 15 or more minutes. So basically you'd give us a topic and then we would record a short little thing specifically just for you. Not everybody redeemed these. Only 4 people have so far. And so what I did was I put together those 4 and then that's what you're going to be listening to today. So each one, it's about a 15-minute or so presentation or discussion or whatever. Of varying topics. So I hope you like these. I think they're pretty good, and I thought they would be a good little bonus episode to give out to our listeners. Before we get into that, though, one quick thing. Today, we're going to be doing the drawing for the second of our 3 leather goods from Maumee River Leather. And in particular, today, we're giving away the leather box that is disguised as a leather journal. So, the winner of today's prize, the leather box, is Carl L. Congratulations, Carl. I will be getting in touch with you pretty soon to get your information. Give me a few weeks. Like I said, I've been kind of busy. I'm on vacation right now, and then even just with regular job stuff. I've been a little busy, so give me a little time to get that to you, but I will keep in touch. For everybody else, if you are still interested in winning the last of the 3 leather goods, we're going to be doing that drawing on Tuesday, November 9th. So if you're interested in winning the leather book cover, send us an email with a picture of a review that you have left us on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher, on Podcast Addict, anywhere you can leave a review. Leave us a review, take a picture of it, and email it to us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com before the 9th of November. And we'll do that drawing that day. Good luck to everybody else who is currently on the list. Good luck to everybody who is going to enter between now and then. Just a big thank you to everybody who has left us reviews. You guys are awesome. So anyway, enough of all that. Once again, here are 4 personalized discussions from our red tier patrons. Enjoy. Hello, my name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're the hosts of Inter-Party Conflict. And we are going to be talking about giving a speech, I suppose.
Yeah, public speaking.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Public speaking, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So Dustin is one of our patrons. And Dustin asked us, he said, "Hey Gabe, I'm a leader in a scout troop. And a bunch of my kids are having trouble completing their communications merit badge. The most common hurdle is giving a 5-minute speech to the group. They all have terrible stage fright. Could you talk about how you prepare for your podcast, how you got over your stage fright, and how you broadcast? I think it would be tremendously helpful for them. Thank you in advance." So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to be talking about how we prepare for our podcast, how we get over stage fright, and how we actually get the podcast on the internet so people can listen to it.
Sure.
I would say that we started the podcast. I'll kind of take us all the way back to the beginning. We started this podcast when Jeff was interested in, you were interested in doing like a YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
You want to do kind of Game Grumps, like a video game?
Yeah, like a little Let's Play thing for,
Yeah.
just for fun. I play video games all the time anyway, so I might as well record it.
Yeah. And I had been listening to a lot of podcasts because at my work, I'm able to listen to whatever I want while I'm working. And so I knew I wanted to, because I like talking too. I wanted to make a podcast. Hadn't really decided on a topic for a while, but once you were interested in doing something with microphones and such as well, we put our minds together, and one of the things that came of it is Inter-Party Conflict.
Yeah.
So as far as preparing for an episode. I would kind of say the process involves, I sit down, I look at, for our podcast, we answer listener submitted questions. So I like to sit down with the list of questions that have been submitted. I like to kind of go over them all. I look at each question and then I think about, what do I have to say about this? There are some things that I have a lot to say about. There's some things that I don't have a lot to say about, but just about anything, if you get me talking about it, I'll come up with some stuff as we go. So I look at the questions. I try and think about which of these things do I really enjoy talking about, which do I think could be a lot of fun to talk about, and then I make them into a list, get Jeff together, and then we look at the list and we figure out which ones we think would be good, and then go from there.
Yeah.
As far as getting over stage fright, Jeff, have you ever had any issues with stage fright in your past?
Yeah, I would have to say yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a terribly great public speaker. I can think of a lot of times where I've had to like do a presentation or something for a class, and like getting up there and actually talking, like there have been a couple times where I start shaking, like it just kind of gets real bad. Like my voice starts cracking and like I just start shaking. I get real nervous, and I usually get through it. And sometimes the nervousness kind of like dies down towards the end, but for the most part, I'm just sort of like very anxious and that sort of thing. It doesn't always happen. I mean, doing this podcast, it's pretty easy because it's just me and you. Like, yeah, there's really not really much to be nervous about. Like, I might sometimes think back to what I said and go, ugh, but beyond that, it's like, whatever. And like, I try not to listen to our show too much so I don't feel that way. Because I feel like if I listened to all of our episodes a lot, I would probably hate everything I say and wouldn't want to do it anymore. So I just avoid it.
I'm kind of the opposite. I've listened to so many of our episodes that now that doesn't even faze me anymore.
Sure.
I do still have like, why did I say it like that?
Yeah. No,
but it's more of like a curiosity now than something stopping me.
No, I'm really hard on myself about that sort of stuff. So I'm just like, what? If I don't listen to it, then I won't be embarrassed, and I'll just keep on embarrassing myself without even knowing it. So who cares? As long as I don't know that I'm being embarrassing, who cares?
Yeah. That is an important thing for when we record our podcast, which might not apply to all forms of public speaking, but when we record our podcast, it is very much, I'm sitting in a room talking to my friend.
Right.
There isn't an audience in front of me, so it's a lot easier to get over stage fright because I'm just talking to Jeff. I could talk to Jeff. I do talk to Jeff all the time about all sorts of stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's not as intimidating as it could be.
Yeah.
There is a way, though, to apply that to public speaking. Because, sorry, I didn't add in. I also suffer from stage fright. I suffer from horrible stage fright. I'm the kind of person that, like, if I'm in a class and I know I'm going to raise my hand and ask a question, I'm shaking, I'm sweating, I am like terrified of when I actually get to ask the question, because then everybody in the room is going to be listening to me. They're probably going to be looking at me. And then what if I stumble over my words or something? I suffer from terrible stage fright in that regard.
Yeah.
However, I also considered myself to be a fairly competent public speaker. Right. So the lesson here is that stage fright doesn't have to stop you. Like Jeff, you were saying, you're just kind of talking with a friend. If you can be in front of a group of people, and if you can look a person directly in the eyes, don't just speak out to everybody. I guess you can try, but if you look directly at one person, preferably if there's someone in the audience that you know or that you are friends with, try to just look directly at them, at least at the beginning. And then imagine that you're not talking to a huge group. You're just talking to your friend.
Right.
Even if it's not someone you know, even if there isn't anybody you know in the audience, if you just picture yourself as, I am talking to this one person in the audience, it'll feel a lot less daunting than if you were trying to talk to everybody. Also, try and focus on the microphone. Maybe don't even think about all the people that you're talking to in the audience. Just think, I am just here. I am talking to this thing that is like 3 inches in front of my face. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That can kind of alleviate it. Now, that's once you're already on stage. As a person who's done theater over the years, who has, I took speech class, I've done presentations at my local library. It's hard to get to that point because all the time leading up, you're panicking and you're feeling like you didn't do enough preparation work and you're afraid that you're going to get out there and you're not going to be able to find your notes or whatever. So once you're on stage, that's kind of the easy part. The hard part is leading up to it in advance. Now, I've said on our podcast many times, and I'll say it about any kind of public speaking, preparation is key. You want to make sure that you know the thing that you're talking about. If whatever you're talking about is something that you know, that if it's something that you are passionate about, that you enjoy talking about, once you get going, you're golden.
Yeah.
So the trick is just to remind yourself, I just need to get out there and start. Once I start talking, it'll be fine and easy after that. It's like riding a bike. You just got to get going and then you'll just keep going.
Yeah. I can definitely think of like the times where I have done, maybe not in front of like as big a groups as I would in like a class or something, but like talking to a group of people, if it's something I am interested in or passionate about, like I don't have the problem. Like I don't have the nervousness at least not as much, because like if it's something I at least know enough about, I can talk about it at length and I'm excited about it. And I'm if people have questions, I want to help, I want to answer those questions and that sort of thing. Yeah. But like in class, like one, I never did the preparation of actually learning about the thing that I was told to talk about. But like, part of that is because like they'd be like, oh, do a presentation on this specific topic. It's like, I don't care about that topic. You're just forced. You just want me to do this presentation. Like it might be depending on what the class was, it might have been like, you're doing it to do the presentation or you're doing it to learn the thing. I understand that there's difference there, but
sure.
Like in most cases, like I wasn't that interested in the topics. Therefore, my mind wasn't on the topic. It was more on the act of speaking in front of people. So I was nervous. But like, if they're getting like their public speaking badge, hopefully they can choose their own topic. Therefore, if they can find something that they're passionate about, like I can think of myself as a kid, in that situation. I'd be like, well, I could talk about any of the video games I'm playing. I can talk at length at that. Like, and hopefully nowadays that's more acceptable as a topic. Yeah. Like, I feel like it should be at that point where now, like, if a kid wants to do like, well, no, this is what me and my friends did on Minecraft over the summer. Like here's sure. Here's this cool city we built, and here are all the different buildings. You can do a little PowerPoint presentation of all the little things that you did, over the summer with your friends. It's like, that's still public speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as if you are able to pick your own topic, then just pick something that you enjoy doing. And then just, instead of thinking of it like I have to give a speech, think of it as, I'm going to tell my friends about this thing I enjoy.
Yeah.
It's all about getting in the right mindset. If you can just think of it as a thing that you enjoy doing, then it'll be so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get to pick your own topic, it might seem like it's hopeless, but it's not. The trick is to read up what you can about the topic you have to do your speech on. Find something in there that you like, even if it's some little tiny thing. If you have to do a speech on, I don't know, the kings of England or something, find one king that did one thing that is really cool.
Right.
And then just keep that in your mind. You might still have to talk about other stuff, but if you keep in your mind, ooh, I'm about to get to the good part, then
sure.
it'll get you through the bad parts.
Yeah.
And then right on to the stuff that you enjoy talking about.
Yeah. It's like, one of the king's brothers was like a weirdo and like did all this weird stuff. You can kind of if you think that's interesting, maybe read up on that guy and just kind of like pepper him into the talk every once in a while.
Sure.
And it's like me, and then when this king was doing this thing, meanwhile, brother, what's his face was over, was in this country, doing who knows what.
Yeah.
Just find one little thing about the topic that you find funny or interesting, and then kind of work with that.
Yeah. And not everybody, this next thing I'm going to say, not everybody is going to agree with me. I'm always kind of a nerd when it comes to structuring things. But if I am going to give some sort of a speech, I personally make an outline. I start out with an introduction, and then I come up with some sort of a quick little attention getter. Maybe I tell a joke that has to do with the topic I'm going to talk about. Or when I was in speech class in high school, one of the things I did, I think I brought like a balloon and I just popped it in front of everybody just to get their attention so that everybody's, they're not sure what to expect, but they're paying attention. And then after your introduction, give a summary of what you're going to talk about. And then in your outline, you can have, I'm going to talk about this category, this category, this category. If you're going to talk about Minecraft, talk about building as your first category, and then talk about survival as your second category. And then maybe your third category is the game that I played with my friends. And those are your three things. And then it's not that you've got this big, huge speech about Minecraft. For the next minute or two, just talk about building in Minecraft. Then the next minute or two, talk about survival in Minecraft. And then the game that you played with your friends for a minute or two. If you can give yourself an easy, small thing to talk about, it'll make the whole thing so much easier because it doesn't feel like a giant task. Mm-hmm. It's just a little thing that you can do.
Right. Plus, then you're not like jumping around with the topic, keeping things structured keeps you from kind of going like jumping around back and forth between different things.
Exactly. I always hate when I'm listening to somebody and they jump around to different topics too much. And I know I do this sometimes myself. So I want to try, if I can, I want to try to rein it in a little bit. I want to make sure that I stay on topic, stay on something simple. And then, as long as I keep a good structure, it's going to be much easier to do, much easier to listen to. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, at the beginning, you want to have an introduction. At the end, you want to have a summary. You want to say, I talked to you about building in Minecraft. I talked to you about survival in Minecraft. And I talked to you about the game I played with my friends. This is why I love Minecraft. So everybody go out and play Minecraft.
Sure.
And then boom, you've got a little speech, perfect little speech right there. Do you have anything else to say, Jeff?
No, not really. Cause I don't have a ton of experience with public speaking, but you'll get through it. Like the nervousness never really fully goes away. Yeah. Like if you're nervous about public speaking, you're probably going to be nervous about public speaking for a long time, but yeah. You'll get better at it, and the nervousness kind of like you'll definitely get through it.
Sure. And yeah, that's really the important thing. Like it might never be easy, but you'll always be able to get through it.
Right.
So just keep at it. Keep doing things that are exciting to you. And see, because I didn't do an outline for this, I just realized there was one more thing we were supposed to talk about, and that's how we broadcast.
Oh, sure.
So Jeff and I, we each record. We each have a condenser microphone, mm-hmm. and when we record in person, I have a mixer here at my computer. Since we're recording remotely right now, Jeff's at his house. He has a microphone and a mixer himself. We record them. I use a program called Audacity. I put those files together. I listen through the whole thing, making sure it sounds good. I cut out parts that don't need to be there. I insert sound effects. I insert music, and then I have a finished file. Once I have the finished file, I upload it to SoundCloud.com, which is the hosting website that we've chosen. And from there, SoundCloud sends it off to iTunes and Google Play and all that, and then people listen to it. Yeah. Hopefully, so, pretty. It sounds like a lot of stuff, and it kind of is, but we've been doing it for 3 years, so it's gotten easier.
Right.
It never gets too easy, but it does get easier.
Yeah.
All right. So that was our talk about
talking.
Public speaking, about talking. Exactly.
Yeah, talk about talking.
Thank you, Dustin, for giving us that prompt.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jeff, for joining me.
Yeah. Thank you, Gabe.
And, yes, no problem. And good luck, everybody out there who is doing some speaking. Go speak.
Go talk more.
There you go. Hey everybody, Gabe and Jeff here.
Hi.
Today we're going to be giving a backstory to one of our patrons' characters, the patron in question being Taylor, aka Alistar the Minotaur on Reddit. Taylor has a character that he's been playing in our Roll20 game named Vladislav the Poker Ignolvik.
Okay.
I hope I'm pronouncing that last name right. And so I've played with him a few times. Jeff hasn't, so this might be a little bit one-sided, but I'm sure Jeff will have some input on this. So Vladislav is a human fighter rogue in our Patreon game. I've sent Jeff his picture. He kind of looks like a, sort of like, he's got like a fancy, what am I even, whenever I look at this picture, I think of sort of like a slightly goth Beethoven kind of.
I'm picturing what we do in the shadows.
Okay, yeah, that works too. His character is not a vampire,
right,
as far as I know.
Yeah.
But playing with his character, Vladislav is a bit of a scoundrel. That being said, he is a kind-hearted scoundrel.
Okay.
He will, he'll steal if he thinks he can get away with it. But at the same time, like, he doesn't steal from the party. He's actually very kind to the party. There was a point in the campaign where one of the other player characters, Miraz, who acts like a wizard but is not actually a wizard. He doesn't actually have magic powers. Miraz was kind of like opening up and saying, like, revealing, like, I don't really have magic powers or something. Maybe I'm remembering that part wrong. But Vlad talked to him and was like, dude, whatever you do, you've got a ton of power. You've been able to do some great stuff. Just believe in yourself, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Vladislav is, he grew up in the bad part of town, I guess. There's these two towns in our campaign that are on opposite sides of this river. One of them is kind of the rich part of town, the nicer town. And then the other part, these are Twin Fangs. Twin Fangs West is like the nice town. Mm-hmm. And then Twin Fangs East is kind of like where all the poor and criminal people live. Mm-hmm. And Vladislav came from the criminal part of town.
Right. So he comes from Twin Fangs, and you're sure he's not a vampire?
I'm pretty sure. He didn't. I asked for some, like, if there was any particular things he wanted us to focus on for this, and he didn't say anything about being a vampire. He's been in sunlight many times. I do know that much.
Mm-hmm. That's what a vampire would say.
So here's the thing. Whenever Vlad talks, Taylor uses this, like, Eastern European, kind of Russian, kind of Transylvanian voice. I know it sounding like he's a vampire, right, but I promise he isn't. Another little thing is that his character the other players have met his mother, who is like your typical Eastern European mother who's always like nagging her son to do chores and to, visit more often and, so on and so on. To eat more, exactly.
Or drink more blood, maybe. I don't know.
Well, no. But then Vlad kept using the term, the name Baba Yaga to refer to her.
Sure.
And, maybe as a term of endearment, who knows? We'll get into that, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then I will say, so I did ask Taylor what things he wanted to focus on. He said not really very much, but he did also provide a few additional bits of information for context that haven't really come up in the game. And so I'll go ahead and read these to you.
Okay. Yeah.
So I asked him if he wanted us to focus on anything. He said, not really. You kind of already know the bits of backstory I've already developed in the narrative. He's got a brother who he's jealous of for getting the Klingon. Now, I wasn't aware of this. In our campaign, there are the Drawn, which are basically the humans, like that's the human race. However, there is also a sub-race of humans that I don't really know if... the sub-race is these zombie hearts that come out of their ancestors, burrow out of the corpses of their ancestors, and then attach themselves to members of the Drawn. And when that happens, it's a very prestigious thing. It is an honor to be bonded to a Klingon, as they are called.
Yeah.
And when you have a Klingon bonded to you, it's like attached to your body somewhere. And in addition to the cultural benefits, it makes you healthier, it makes you stronger. So the idea here is then that Vlad has a brother that was bonded to a Klingon, and Vlad is very jealous of it.
Okay, he's very jealous
in
because
addition,
it's 2 hearts, which means more blood, which means you have more tasty, delicious blood to drink.
Additionally, his mother is named Baba Yaga and makes delicious borscht balls. These borscht balls have come up in the story a couple times.
Borscht balls.
Yep. At one point, one of the adventures, the inciting incident, I guess, was Baba Yaga sent them to go get saffron to go in the borscht balls. And so they had to go to the market. And then when they got to the market, they saw some bad guys, whatever.
Yeah.
He grew up in Twin Fangs East, and he's a scoundrel. Only thing you may not know, technically,
Is
his
vampire?
intelligence. No.
Oh.
His intelligence is 8.
Oh.
However, he has a headband that makes his intelligence a 19.
Oh.
So each of the players started with a magic item, and so he has this headband that makes him very smart. And then Taylor added, Vlad is practically illiterate without it.
Huh.
So, I mean, that's a really cool detail. I was not aware of that. I'm sure he told me. It sounded familiar, but it was not something that was on the forefront of my mind. Also, I didn't know anything about his brother. So that's news to me too.
Right.
So, like I said, he has this mother who's like one of those nosy neighbors. She when they found out that there was like this cult of lizard folk and hags that lived in Twin Fangs East, they found out that it was in the building next door, and the mother knew who they were, but she didn't tell them because she needed them to go run her errands. So like that's why she sent them to the market, was to go buy the saffron rather than just telling them, oh yeah, the thing you're looking for is right next door. So I was thinking, one of the things that like the meatiest chunk that I came up with for Vlad's backstory is that his mother is or was in some kind of a cult. Like his mother actually was some kind of like a dark priestess or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why she has the name Baba Yaga. It's not just a funny name. Like she was or is some sort of like very dangerous, very feared individual.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe because Vlad has always been kind of dumb, except when he had this headband, he just never realized it. He may have even taken part or helped with some of the cult rituals in the past. He just thought, oh, it's just mom's having some, oh, mother is having some of her friends over for her delicious, she gave me some delicious borscht balls. So I don't care what they're doing. I get my borscht balls at the end of day. And so I thought that would be a fun thing if there actually is this cult connection with his Baba Yaga mother.
Gabe, I've got it.
What's that?
You're not going to like it.
I probably not. I think I know where this is going.
Gabe,
please continue.
Gabe,
yes.
He's a vampire, but hear me out.
Okay.
Baba Yaga is not his real mother.
Okay.
Baba Yaga basically put a curse on this vampire, this powerful vampire, put a curse on him.
Okay.
That basically, have you seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Or
I've seen some of it.
So there's the character Angel. He is a it's going to be roughly based on this, I guess. Sure. Character Angel is a vampire who I think it's supposed to be like just like a gypsy curse or something silly.
Okay.
But
he was given his soul back.
Yeah, he was basically given his soul back,
Yeah.
and so now he's a vampire with a soul, and it's like, well, that sucks because he's a vampire, and vampires do horrible things, but he has a soul now, so now he feels bad.
I mean, it is a curse, I would say.
Right, yeah,
yes.
exactly. Well, yeah, I'm not...
His curse is that he's just too compassionate.
His curse is that he just sits, he broods all the time. He's just like, he's just like, oh, man, stuck as a teenager or whatever. Anyway, so Baba Yaga, like, maybe put like her and her cult or whatever, put a curse on this vampire, and like basically made him human again.
Okay.
To an extent, like, but yeah, something went wrong with the curse, and it didn't quite fully turn him back or something. So there's going to be some aspects of him that are still kind of vampiric, and like maybe like one of part of the curse, it made him stupid and it made him like childlike, and like Baba Yaga kind of felt bad. It's like I've basically gotten rid of this monster, but I've created this poor creature that can't even take care of itself, It's like, oh, what have I done? Like I've, it's like I've removed the threat, but now I feel bad for what I've left behind. And so she cares for him and, feeds him borscht balls, which are actually blood.
Oh no.
So like maybe maybe like the borscht balls that she makes for him are like high in iron or something, or, like she's trying to like make sure he's still getting the
getting the blood that he needs,
right, the sustenance that he needs or something, like,
yeah.
So he's got this, like, his mother doting after him because she was the reason why he is the way that he is now, because he was once a vampire. He has a guy named Vlad living in two fangs, and he looks like a vampire.
Yeah. Fun fact: there is also a Twin Fangs South, completely unrelated to the other two. It's like way off somewhere else on the map. We didn't even realize it when we came up with Twin Fangs East and West. Someone later realized, oh, there's already a Twin Fangs, and it's like way south.
Oh goodness, Twin Fangs South.
Yeah. So then, maybe the reason that the reason he didn't get a Klingon is because he isn't alive.
Right.
Klingon went to his brother because his brother is actually a living human.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, so like the person he is now is different than the vampire he was before, but like, so it's not like,
so he just doesn't have any memory of it.
Yeah, doesn't have any memory of it.
He doesn't know he's a vampire.
Right. And so, but with the memory went the intelligence. And so now maybe the headband was a gift from his mother. It was it's an enchanted headband to kind of give him some intelligence, but it's like maybe intelligence borrowed from other places or something. I was like,
maybe.
I'm not sure what the magic of the headband would be.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe she had a son that died, and the headband has some of the consciousness of her actual son in it.
Yeah,
and that's why she took so much compassion on him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I say compassion, but like she's kind of a nagging shrew, I guess.
Right,
them, but in a loving way.
But there's still that like resentment that like, oh, he used to be this monster, So like she sort of still does hold resentment. Like maybe the vampire killed somebody close to her. Maybe he even killed her son, her actual son.
There you go.
And like, yeah, so like there is sort of this duality of like, I hate this person, but they're also helpless without me.
Yeah.
And in giving them this help, they've, given them a part of my son or whatever. It's like, or like as part of his in her mind, it's part of his atonement that he carries the memories of her son and like, lives up to his name and legacy or something like that.
Sure. That's all great. That's all really good stuff. One more thing that I want to say, it's not even like, it's just something that happened in the game that I forgot to mention earlier. Vladislav did probably, like, in my opinion, the most badass thing this entire campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I just said in the episode that we just recorded right before this that Fionn was actually the one that killed the god that they were fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, though, Vladislav was right up there, front and center, fighting this avatar of this god for a while. And it was, this thing hit like a truck, hit a bunch of times per round like a truck, many trucks, I guess. And there was a point when the boss finally like started to get low on health. And so I narrated that like I think like Vlad like stabbed him or whatever. And like for a moment, for like the first time in the battle, this like giant million armed orc thing for the briefest of moments looks scared. And Vladislav, like I'm picturing Vladislav, his rapier still in the god's stomach, just looks the god straight in the eyes. And he said something along the lines of like, "You are a pitiful god," or something. And just like staring a god in the eyes and saying that as you are in the process of killing them,
right,
or in the process of besting them.
Sure.
So badass, in my opinion. So.
Very cool.
So yeah, that's I think that's pretty good. I think we came up with some good stuff.
Yes.
So Taylor, let us know what you think. Hopefully it was good. All right.
All right.
Thank you for being a patron.
Yeah.
You rock.
Yeah. Take it easy. Bye.
Hello, my name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And today we are going to be discussing some non-standard D&D games from our patron Dave. So his question was, what are your thoughts on quote-unquote special games? And then he gave a few examples. Do you like them? Do you want to play them one day? Would you ever run them for your friends? So the examples he gave were Secret Stats, Average Adventurers, Goonie Gang, Coming Out of Retirement, Oops All Monsters, and Differently Abled Adventurers. So, first one, Secret Stats. With this, everyone has a pre-generated character, but nobody knows what their stats are. They start off just with a blank character sheet, and then as they try to do things, the Dungeon Master, when they make a roll, the Dungeon Master tells them, you're pretty good at this, you have a +5. And then they write that into their sheet. And then they experiment with more things, and they find out what they're good at and what they're bad at. What are your thoughts, Jeff?
I mean, that's kind of interesting. I feel like you could like theme this, like flavor-wise, this could be like an adventure where it's people from the real world get transformed into the game or something, get sucked into the game and like, oh, what are my stats? Like
Sure.
Because like people, we're nerds. We've always thought like, oh, what
Jeff? Excuse me.
What would my character sheet look like? My real physical self. What would my character sheet look like? And I don't think my strength is high, but my intelligence might be okay, and my wisdom might be pretty okay, and I don't know. It's who's to say?
Sure. That's actually a pretty good way of doing that, I would say.
Right, yeah. So like that'd be like a fun thing. I guess just like in general, as far as like special things, I don't know if we want to talk about that off the top. About these like special type adventures, like
sure.
Well, I guess we can kind of go into it with each one where it's like, would this be better as like, would this be good as like a one-off, or would this be more something that could go a little bit further?
Yeah, that's a good question. For this, I would say the hook of this is really only going to be significant the first time you play.
Right.
Because then you know your stats, and then it's just a regular game of D&D.
Yeah. So I mean, like, yeah, for something like this, be a neat little one-off, or maybe a couple sessions or something like that. But,
sure.
Depending on like how you flavored it and what how everything's going.
Yeah. Personally, I don't really like the idea of this, just because it's a lot of work. You got to make all the characters ahead of, like, presumably one person has to make all the characters ahead of time. Maybe if you're doing it that everybody is playing as themselves, maybe have each person make a different person's character. So you can, like, I could make Jeff's, Jeff could make Jay's, Jay could make Steve could make mine. But again, it's so much extra work, because then every time you make a check, instead of just knowing what your stats are, every skill check becomes like a 1 or 2 minute discussion to figure out what your stats are.
Right.
And so I don't know, it could definitely work. Like what you said, that actually sounds pretty fun. But just in general, I feel like it's going to be a lot of work for the Dungeon Master for a very limited amount of payoff.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
What were the other ones?
The next idea is Average Adventurers, and that is everyone has a stat of 10 in everything. So everyone, before racial adjustments. So, if you're a human, all your stats are 10. If you're or I guess maybe 11, if you're playing the standard 5th edition human,
sure.
Like an elf, they have a 12 dexterity, and so on and so on.
Again, I think if you could also do because like it's like the average human is a 10 or whatever, and it's like, well, it's like, okay, it's kind of like the person being sucked into the game thing again. You can maybe do that. I guess it's, I don't know, having a 10 and everything or like having just all average stats, it feels kind of boring, but at the same time, I don't know if it would be that much different.
That's a good point.
It wouldn't. I feel like in general it wouldn't be that much different, except for it would probably just be worse because you wouldn't be good at anything. You just would because my whole thing is like, I'll put all of my stats and build my character around doing this one thing, and then the dice still just don't let me do it.
Sure.
So that imagine me trying to do anything when all of my stats are...
I failed, but my failure is too lower than it would have been.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, I don't like the idea. I don't like this one. which is also why I don't like rolling for stats. I know a lot of people like rolling for stats, but
I feel you there. I do feel like this would be kind of boring. That being said, I mean, it's basically just it's either a test of how well the DM can fine tune encounters. You're basically just going to be fighting weaker challenges.
Yeah. But again, that puts more. Yeah, it's just putting a lot of prep work, at least on the DM side too.
Yeah, and it's either a lot of extra work for the DM, or it's just a role playing focused game rather than a stat focused game.
Sure,
which you can already do.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you don't need. Yeah, you don't have to do a stat gimmick for that.
Yeah. So the next one is Goonie Gang. Everyone is a child. They are one size smaller and can add +2 dexterity and charisma, but must subtract 2 from their strength and intelligence.
Well, what's the next one?
The next one is coming out of retirement, which is the same thing, but everybody is older. They're really old. Opposite stat effects. So +2, I guess +2 to strength seems a little weird. +2 to some stats, and then -2 to some other stats.
Right.
No size downgrade, possibly nerf their vision or passive perception.
Sure. I mean, like, I know there were the stat changes it when your character got older or whatever. I think in third edition there was that. Like your wisdom would go up and intelligence would go up, but your strength and dexterity or constitution.
It was all your physical stats would go down by 1 per category, and all your mental stats would go up by 1, which is weird because then a 90-year-old man can hear better than a 20-year-old man, which is a little goofy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're sort of like, it's like, oh, but they're more wise. I was like, sure. I mean,
so in this case, I feel like you had a good point in covering both of these at the same time. I think that both of them are really going to hinge entirely upon what the adventure is, what the DM is having them do. I would love to play in a game where everybody is kids or where everybody is adults. or everybody's like elderly people. I love both of those if they're in a game that is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it'd be neat to see. It would definitely be neat to see. I'd be interested. Like my interest is piqued, but like, it is sort of, it does kind of depend on how the adventure goes.
Sure. Cause like I've talked previously about how one of the guys that I met around, like when I was first getting into D&D, said that he once played a game of GURPS where the players were playing as babies trying to escape a daycare. And I think that is fantastic. But again, the scenario sounded like a ton of fun. I don't really know if the idea of just playing as babies is that cool on its own. It's all about what the scenario is, how best you use the mechanics, and how best you use the scenario and everything. So it's just, again, and not to say that all of these are just going to be a lot of work for the DM, but in a different way, this is a lot of work for the DM just because it's hinging so much on the adventure.
Sure.
So the next one is Oops, All Monsters. Everybody in the party must be a monstrous race and have some backstory or reason to explain why they have turned on their evil overlords.
I like this one.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, kind of bringing back the kids one, but not really. Like,
sure.
For what I think we did, I forget what it was. Oh yeah, it was a Halloween thing.
Oh, shoot. Yes, you ran that.
Yeah, I ran it where I told everybody, all right, I gave a short list of monstrous races.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, make characters out using these. And then I started off the adventure with a battle where you're fighting like zombies or something. And then it turns out like, oh, you're not actually these monsters. You're kids dressed up as these monsters for Halloween.
Yep.
And then, early on in the adventure, you actually get cursed and turned into the monsters. So like,
yes.
So it's, yeah. So yeah. I mean, like, monstrous races, you don't like, it doesn't have to be something special. Like, it could just be like, oh, you're in a campaign setting where that's not really a big deal.
Yeah, sure. Like Eberron, goblins and such are just people. They're it's not as big of a taboo to play as a goblin or an orc or a hobgoblin or something, just because they're just part of the world.
Right. And like, yeah, there's going to still be tension and, like stuff, but like, yeah, it's not as like, oh man, you're basically playing an enemy character. It's like, no,
right.
no.
I just want to say the game that you ran that you just described was fantastic. That idea was so good.
I mean,
good job on that.
Like most of my things, the idea is pretty good. Execution's never great, but I still appreciate the compliment. Thank you.
Cool. I feel like if I was playing in a game that was Oops All Monsters, I would be unable to not try and make the weirdest monster possible. I'm playing a gibbering mouther paladin. Sorry, guys. That's what I'm playing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what else are you going to do? Like, how are you not going to do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll just play a character that basically just the same thing as playing a player race. No, you got to do something that makes you be like, how does that even work? What oath did you make, and which of your mouths did you use to make that oath?
Oh my god. Like an Atiag monk or something. I don't know.
Sure. That's actually pretty good. And then the final idea was differently abled adventurers. Everyone must have a disability or handicap that forces them to roleplay with this character differently than with most characters they've played.
Mm. And like I feel like we've talked about playing disabled characters in the past.
We have a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I don't, this isn't something that's gonna like it's not gonna hurt the game. I don't think. Like, yeah, plenty of way. Like there are plenty of variant rules and stuff where you can like take flaws and things like that to get bonus feats and that kind of thing. So like this isn't so outside of the normal rule set that I think it's gonna like negatively I don't think it has a big chance of negatively affecting the game.
Sure.
And it could add some interesting topics as far as like things to role play with.
Yeah. I just feel like kind of similar to basically all of the other ideas on here. It's going to be more work for the DM in order to run a game that makes it meaningful, but not too hard or like too stereotypical, I guess. I don't know. Like, let's say you're playing someone who is in, a wheelchair or something like that. Then surely there are going to be times where that is an obstacle, where like the dungeon equivalent of there being stairs or something. And you can do that, but then how do you incorporate that without it just being a token set of stairs? How do you make it a thing that is recurring and meaningful without just telling that player, sorry, you're just going to have every obstacle in front of you?
Yeah.
It's I guess what I'm getting is that it's going to be a fine line to walk. You're going to have to thread that needle and other idioms and such. It's going to be hard. It's going to be more work for the DM. And so it's, I don't think I would do it unless the players were all like really interested in that. And even in that case, I don't think I would be the right DM to do it.
Sure.
Because I don't know how well I would be able to do it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but if it's the DM's idea and the players are into it, fine.
Sure.
At the very least, it'd be good. Like any of these would be good for like a one-off at least.
Yeah. If you would say any of these are better for a long-term campaign, which one would you say is best for that?
Maybe the monster one.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like the monster one, just because again, it's like I think it's because like Monsters Races isn't like, again, that's one that's not like too far outside the rules. It's just you're just not spending as much time in the normal cities or something like that. Oh no,
sure.
Like you could still do a good campaign, and it'd be kind of interesting where like one of the adventures is the group kind of has to sneak their way into a normal human city or something.
Sure.
I could see a lot with that, but I think I'm biased because I like Monsters Races and things like that.
Sure. And if say half of the party could theoretically pass as human and the other half couldn't, that could lead to like an interesting heist where one half of the party has this objective, the other half of the party has to stay in the shadows and, do something else to aid with whatever the mission is that doesn't get them, face to face with regular people.
Sure. Yeah. Because like Monsters vary so much. Like everybody's got a part to play.
I think, I think I agree that the Monsters one is probably the one that is best suited for a long-term campaign. I think Secret Stats really only works for a one-shot. After that, it's just a regular game.
Yeah.
Average Adventurers, I just feel like would be slightly less fun than a regular game.
Yeah.
And then Goonie Gang and Coming Out of Retirement would be best for a one-shot that is like really hyper-focused on that thing. Differently Abled Adventurers, I guess could be, depending on how it's dealt with, could be a long-term campaign, but again, like I don't know exactly how to keep that going for a whole campaign in a way that's meaningful. You know
sure.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that'll do it for this. Unless you had any other ideas you wanted to bring up, Jeff.
No, I think that about covers it.
Cool. I think it was really interesting to cover these. I've never really put much thought into most of them. So thank you very much, David, for submitting that. And thanks for being a patron. Have a good day.
Thanks.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we are going to be talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition and what we think it does better or worse than D&D 5th Edition. This was submitted by Joshua P., one of our patrons. Thank you very much, Joshua. So, Jeff, what would you say, just some ideas off the top of your head, like what's your favorite thing about Pathfinder 2nd Edition?
Let's see. There's a lot I like about it. I don't know what my favorite would be, but like one of the main things that does stick out, the difference is like the action economy.
Yeah.
It's just like the way that actions work.
Yes.
Because in the different versions of D&D, there have been like it changed around a little bit, where it's like you might have like a move action or and an attack action, and then you get like a free action or in a reaction. I think that's 5th edition.
So yeah, pretty much.
And then like 3rd edition, there was like the standard action, full round action, things like that. Pathfinder 2nd edition, you have 3 actions and different things take different amount of actions. So like, moving is 1 action. So you can move 3 times. Attacking is 1 action. So you can attack 3 times. However, you do take penalties. You do take multiple attack penalties. So your attack gets less likely to hit with each attack you do in 1 turn.
So at first level, if you really want to, you can attack 3 times. Right. You're not going to hit for at least 2 of those. But you can do it.
Yeah, like but you can still pray for a 20. Or if it's an easy enough target, you might get through.
Sure.
But you have that option. So it's with the 3. I think with the 3. With the 3 actions, like you do end up with a lot more options. There's a lot more stuff you can do with them because they did it this way. There's a lot of way like you can mix and match different things you can do. Spells, spells typically cost 2 actions, so you can cast a spell and attack in the same action.
Yeah.
I think,
and then some spells might even have an additional effect if you spend 3 actions.
Right. Yes. Yeah. There are some where it's like, there's like a healing spell, and it's really cool where it's you can use it for 1 action, and it is like it's a touch healing spell. And I think you like roll for the healing, or you can spend 2 actions. And it's ranged, and I think it does like a flat heal. Like you don't have to roll for it. You just do a maximum amount or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm thinking of the 3rd, or if you use 3, it's an area heal. It heals everybody within that area, which I think also is against any enemies too. So you got to be careful. But
sure.
That also has the added benefit that because it's positive energy, it'll deal damage to undead.
Yeah.
And Steve has used that several times
to great effect.
Yeah, to great effect. Has saved our butts a couple times.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are some spells that get more powerful or do different things depending on the number of actions you spend on them. There's even a monk ability, the Key Blast ability, where you can basically charge it up like a Kamea blast, where it's like, one action you just hit one creature within 30 feet, or if you're using 2 actions, it's a cone of like a 15-foot cone, and then if it's 3 actions, it's like a 30-foot cone, and then it goes up in damage as you do that too.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, the whole action system.
Yeah, the action system is really good. Really, there's just so many options for everything.
Yeah.
Actions, there's like, all the classes have different, like you get feats all the time, and there's so many different options for what feats you can take.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when 5th edition came out, there were there was like 20 feats or something, and that was it.
Yeah, and that's a variant rule too. Like
That's true. Granted, they were very powerful.
Yeah, they were
but
cool.
There were only so many of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot more of them now and such, and I'm sure in a couple of years there will be way more Pathfinder feats too. But there's just so many options. You can granularly make the character you want to make so well. There's just so much that you can do in Pathfinder, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I would also say that is one of the downsides. Is that
absolutely.
There is just so much that you have to know, or else you'll feel like you're just blindly picking options because you don't know or you can't comprehend all of the options you have. So you're overloaded with options.
Yeah, you get choice paralysis or?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's definitely a thing. Which if anybody wants to get into Pathfinder and start building characters, I recommend you find yourself a character building software or something. There are not software. There's the app Path Builder.
Yes, Path Builder is awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really it streamlines it. The guy who put it together, it's always a work in progress, but it works really well. It's a lot of fun making characters in Pathfinder because there are just so many options that you can come up with a concept and be you can get real close to it because there's just so many different things. They keep coming out with more. So yeah, with like options, there's definitely a lot, and there's going to be a lot more coming. If you know anything about Pathfinder 1st edition, like if you go look up all that information, like there's so much.
Yeah.
As far as like rules, I really like the rules. They're a lot more. There's a lot more to them. There's a lot more to memorize. But I feel like it's very solid. Or it's fairly solid.
Sure.
Like I remember watching a video explaining the stealth rules, and it's so in depth, but very cool.
Okay.
I still don't have a full. I couldn't tell you them immediately. Like I was like,
Sure.
I don't remember because there's like different state conditions are a big thing. There's a ton of conditions in 2nd edition Pathfinder.
Yeah.
So like you can be there's like hidden and concealed and like there's rules with like cover. There's like advanced cover or there's like greater cover, lesser cover, regular cover. And like the way that skills and DCs go against each other. So like you have rather than like if an enemy is trying to ambush you, the DM isn't going to ask you roll a spot check. They're going to passive perception is basically the standard in Pathfinder 2nd edition.
Okay.
However, they do use it. It is more part of the system.
Sure.
It's for because it's for more things. They actually balanced it to work.
It is definitely way different than passive perception in 5th edition.
Right. Yeah. That one, it feels like that it's sort of like a weird outlier and is just easily exploited. So
here's a thing that I really like about Pathfinder is that initiative isn't its own individual thing. Multiple skills can act as your initiative.
Right. Yeah.
Most of the time, it's your perception. You're going to roll a perception check, and then that's your initiative. But let's say you're trying to sneak somewhere. Your stealth roll is your initiative. Right. If you're trying to bluff someone, and then that turns into a fight, your bluff roll is your initiative.
Right. Yeah.
And that's so cool.
Yeah. Like the context dictates what skill you're using for your initiative. That's really it's a lot of fun. Because those few examples I think are like those are the ones that can kind of happen organically, and then I think there are like certain feats that also give you different options.
Okay.
I know there's one that gives you your performance skill check.
Oh, okay.
As initiative. So it's like it's the gladiator archetype or something.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So you can use your performance skill to as your initiative. So like you can couple that with bard or something, and that'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So like the idea is like you're trying to ambush somebody, you would roll your stealth, and then you would attack, and then combat would start, and you would just use your stealth roll as initiative. Yeah. And like it's kind of like streamlining that too, because like the roll's already been made. You don't have to roll again for initiative. Like you've already made the roll. So like you have your modifier for your skill, but then you also have the DC, which is basically the 10 plus your modifier thing.
Sure.
Where like if a monster is trying to sneak up on you, the DM is going to roll the stealth check against your perception DC, so that they can do that in secret, so that you don't know what's happening if you don't need to. If you didn't notice the monster sneaking up on you, you didn't notice. You're not, they're not saying, "Hey, roll a spot check," and then you roll low and you go, "Oh, I guess I don't see anything, but now I'm scared." But they do that with basically everything in Pathfinder 2nd edition. Like it's all, like you might roll something against somebody's like save DC or something like that. I feel it really all depends on what you're doing, because like some spells have you do really very specific things.
Yeah.
And then criticals are different.
Oh, that's correct. I do really like how they do criticals.
Yeah, it's neat, because like you still have your 1s and your 20s. That's still a thing. I do remember thinking that was no longer a thing, and then it was only the secondary rule, which is if you are 10 above the AC or DC that you're aiming for, that's a critical. If you're 10 below, that is a critical failure.
Yeah.
The critical success versus critical failure. So like there will be certain abilities and spells and stuff that, depending on how good your success is, it does different things. So like if you're casting a spell and you hit their AC, you do normal damage. If you critically hit, you do double damage, like a normal crit, crit. But there are some spells where, say like they have to roll a save, but they roll a critical failure on their save, they might get like a whole bunch of extra like conditions or something. Like it might be something that like does fire damage, but if they critically fail, they get a persistent fire damage that they're taking damage over time now.
Yeah.
Or bleed effect or something. Or they might become frightened for a round or so.
Sure. And then there might be a feat that they took that makes it so that against a very specific situation, a success is counted as a critical success, or a critical failure is counted as a regular failure, or vice versa. A failure is a critical failure.
Yeah.
So on.
Yeah. So like there's like skill feats for those kind of things, where it's like, if you're trying to be really good at this one skill, like you can take a feat that makes it so like you're never going to critically fail.
Yeah.
Like you might fail, but I think for like one of the medicine ones, if you critically fail, you end up dealing damage to the person you're trying to heal.
That's true. Yeah.
So like there is a medical feat or something that basically makes it so you can't critically fail. So at the very least, you're not going to kill the person. You just might not heal them.
One thing that I think is a good and bad thing, and it's bad just because, again, it's just adding more stuff that you have to know, is that so much of the rules are categorized by like various tags.
Yeah.
And that makes it really easy to search for a specific thing, because like, oh, you might wonder, what abilities does this feat affect? Or what abilities does this magic item affect? Or what spells are affected by this thing, and so on. And it's always very specifically referencing these specific tags. So
Yeah.
this feat modifies any ability that has the healing tag or whatever, and so on and so on. And that's cool. That does make it a lot easier to search for something. However, I feel it makes the game, it's just making it more complicated. There's more stuff you have to know.
Yeah.
And also, to an extent, I feel like it is increasing your reliance on having an online database of the stuff that you can easily search through.
Sure, yeah.
Theoretically, you could make use of that just by having the book and knowing the stuff offhand, but I think it's really geared for a computer, and that's good and bad. It would be cooler if the game was just a little bit simpler to not have to have all that stuff. But at the same time, while the options are there, we do have computers. It is really cool that you can easily find these things out.
Right, yeah. Yeah, like, so 5th edition D&D is a game that you could just kind of like, you could just sit down and play it. Like,
yeah.
It, like, once you've got a good understanding of the rules, you can just sit down and play. People can like make their characters ahead of time, but beyond that, like, you don't really need too much. You don't really need to look up too much. Just make
Once
sure
in a while you'll have to look up something.
Yeah, like a spell or something. But like, hopefully the players who are casting that spell have that information on hand. They printed it out maybe, or they just wrote down enough of it that they understand it. But yeah, like, so yeah, you might need to check something every once in a while, but they're once you understand them, they're fairly basic. Mm-hmm. Something like Pathfinder 2nd edition, yeah, you really are going to need a database of some kind. Yeah. Like,
you got to have Archives of Nethys open on your second monitor while you're playing.
Yeah, which, like, I'm okay with, but yeah, like, I feel like it's geared more towards modern, modern methods of playing tabletop games, which is with like virtual tabletops and stuff like that. Like, it is a much more, technology dependent, tabletop game.
Sure.
So that's definitely a downside, but it brings with it a lot of strengths. Upside. Yeah.
And then one thing that I would say is more of a downside than an upside, is in Pathfinder, the numbers are just all so much bigger.
Yeah, there's a lot of
numbers. In D&D 5th edition, like, you're not going to have, if you have like a 20 AC, it's always going to be a 20 AC. If you're fighting something that has a 20 AC, you're probably a pretty high level when you do so. In Pathfinder, you're getting a 20 AC at low levels, and it's only going up. And then you're fighting things with a 20 AC pretty early, and then those are just going up because your attack modifier is going up too.
Yeah.
We talked about the criticals, like you have to get 10 higher in order to get a critical. And yeah, you're going to be getting a 10 higher than a lot of things because a lot of your things are going to have huge modifiers.
Yeah.
True, the things you're rolling against are also going to be getting higher too. But just in general, the numbers are just so much bigger in Pathfinder than they are in 5th edition. And that can be good and bad. It is good because it feels good. It feels like you're improving all the time because you're constantly getting increased modifiers. But, you just inflate the numbers. So
yeah, like, it's not as like there's not as many equations involved as like 3.5, where like it was like trying to calculate what all of your bonuses and stuff were. Like, you were so many different modifiers. So it's not quite as confusing, but yeah, like, the numbers do get big, and like, because like everything's going up by level, and then there's like different tiers of like skill proficiency, so you're adding that as well.
Sure.
But like, this like, again, one of the downsides for this is like, because you're leveling up and you're getting stronger, like, everything else that you're going against is kind of leveling up with you. Like, it really does sort of penalize unoptimized builds.
Sure. Yeah. Like 4th edition did. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, because you have all these options, like, you have more ways of making an optimized build, but it's something that suits your, what you have in mind. Like, you might have a really cool idea that in another system you might not have that many good options for. Like yes, you could play the blind swordsman or whatever, but you're gonna you're not gonna do as well as somebody who's making a more optimal build or something.
Sure.
Whereas like in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you got all these options. Like there's gonna be something that gives you what you want and is still optimal. However, if you still want to try and do something a little bit more unique, like if you don't put all your stat, like all the possible boosts to your stat into your primary like attacking stat, you're just it's not going to be a good time. Like sure. It's like it is the scaling is so tight, that like if you are behind by one, you're gonna feel it.
Sure. That is also the problem that 4th edition had.
Yeah. So like it is very important in Pathfinder 2nd Edition to make sure that like, okay, I am optimizing my stats. I am, as soon as it is like available to my level, I am getting this magical item that boosts that stat, like, so that is definitely like kind of a downside, but yeah, I don't know. Like, but it's still fun though, because you have that like that sense of progression and
sure.
Achieving things.
Definitely not a reason not to play it. Just something to be aware of when you go in.
Yeah. So you don't want to be disappointed to find out like later. I was like, oh, this is not like, oh yeah, this is not working out, and that's something that can be solved by the DM being like, oh, you just swap a number around if you really want to, because there's no rolling for stats in this. That is very specific on how you get your stats. Sure. You get bonuses to your stats based on your background, your race, and your class, and I think that's it. Yeah. And so you pick which stats though, or like sometimes it'll give you options, or it'll say specifically what you're getting, or it might give you an option between a couple of them or something. So it's not hard to build an optimal build, but just be aware that if you're not optimizing your stats correctly, you might have a less of a good time.
Sure. All right. Well, did you have any other thoughts on Pathfinder you wanted to get out?
I mean, I could just talk about Pathfinder for a while.
I know you could.
Yeah.
It's really good. So go play it.
It's good. Yeah. It's definitely worth a look. If it seems like a lot too much, then, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's a lot. There's a lot to it. But there's a lot of resources out there for it. So
sure. Yeah, if you put in the time, you will have a great experience.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for today. So thank you very much, Joshua, for being a patron, and have a great day.
Thanks, Josh.
And so those were the 4 discussion prompts given to us by our Red Tier patrons. So a big, huge thank you to Dustin F., Taylor W., David J., and Joshua P. Thank you so much for submitting those to us. You guys are awesome. And if there's anybody out there who was a Red Tier patron when this was being offered and is no longer a Red Tier patron, we will still honor those if you want us to do one of these. If you do, you have to reach out to us. Let us know. If you listened to those and you thought that sounded really cool and you had a cool idea for us to do a discussion, just get in touch with me. Let me know what your topic is. We'll figure something out. Maybe it'll go in a future episode between now and when the podcast ends. Maybe it'll be, it can be just for you. Whatever you want, just get in touch with me and we'll figure it out. So just I know I said it several times throughout this, but just a big, huge thank you to everybody who has supported us, who is continuing to support us, everybody who's been listening. All of you rock. If you're listening to this right now, I'm talking about you. You're awesome. So thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll have a regular episode for you next week. And I can tell you right now, it's going to be a good one. So have a great week. Talk to you later.